Now that JTL is out, are you looking to dust off one of your old favorite leaders and upgrade it with some of the new cards? Or maybe with the new Win a Showcase Top 64 vibe coming out of the big events, you're just looking to spike a showcase and kind of play a tournament your own way. What's up, guys? KTOD Matty here, hitting you with that's right, three of my favorite leaders from the first three sets that I think get a big upgrade in JTL and could really turn some heads. Now, let's be honest, we are all going to be living in a Django world and a little bit of Han 1 yellow since DJ interaction was not touched. But I think that if you are a type of person that just wants to play your favorite leader or wants to get a little different and find a silver bullet strategy, these three leaders are going to give you some good options. And you saw the thumbnail. The three that I'm going with today are Hera, Luke, and Mandalorian. Mando's very close to my heart, and I think it's a cool upgrade this set, so I wanted to include that. And obviously Luke for the sweet special showcase angle that I know a lot of people are going to be going for. And then I have two honorable mentions that I think are still really strong options, so stay tuned for those. All right, so before I get into the list, I really just wanted to highlight and kind of really just applaud FFG for coming up with this idea, and that is that the top 64 player, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do, if you top 64 with a leader and you are the highest player for that leader, you get a showcase. That's really cool in a lot of ways. One, it lets people who are competitive but not maybe as cutthroat as the rest of us kind of have their own goal for the tournament, and that's to be the best, Luke, Hera, Sabine, whatever player in the event. And then secondly, it's just like a really cool kind of extra prize that's associated with it. It really just shows that you were the best pilot of that deck for a tournament. I think that's awesome. So really kudos to FFG for coming up with this second prize. I hope they keep it throughout the seasons. I think it's really cool. And then another thing that's that comes out of it is we didn't have Vader and Luke showcases from the starter set. And people have been really clamoring for that. So I think that's like a cool ad. And I think we're going to see a lot of Vader and Luke coming up in these regionals and sectionals and all that. And so stay tuned for my villain, a little bit of spoilers, my villain version of this video. And obviously Vader will be in there because you can't really exclude him when he's going to get his own special showcase. So good job, FFG. This is dope. All right, so the first leader on my honorable mentions is Leia. Man, I freaking love the art on Leia. So, I mean, talk about going for a showcase just based off of how cool it is. I think this one is among the top. And then when we look at JTL, Leia got a lot of new toys to play with. I mean, look at all these. It's a little more zoomed in than I thought. You're getting a little bit of solo Matty channel content here on the main page because, dad life is hitting hard and I am not going to edit this. But boom, we're going to move me over. Look at all the new toys that Leia got. Sabine's Masterpiece is a really potent card. I think it will work better in, say, like a double green Leia, just because I think Ambush really helps it out. But we got a bunch of new Rebels, so when you get a bunch of new Rebels, you have to go back and look at Leia. In addition to that, her action cheat ability can just be so important. We're looking at a game that has been kind of defined, I would say, by value.deck. What I mean by that is I personally feel like FFG has been a little worried about anything too potent and breaking the game. And so most of the decks so far have really been packing in as much value as they can, and irrespective of some of the leaders. I think we're starting to see that now with the new leaders in JTL, and obviously Django playing stuff like ISB Agent last set was kind of the beginning of, I think, what is going to be a new era. And listen, this is a brand new game, so going value.deck is usually the way to go. And so that's completely normal and fine. But as we see that strategy kind of fade out, we need to be mindful of not falling behind. And so when you're looking for value, one of the best things you can be doing, and we'll go back to the leader, see if, we don't need to look at all those cards. You kind of got the picture there. When we're looking at value, not only in the cards, but also in abilities, doing two things at once is an insanely potent ability. I think that Leia was one of those leaders people really thought was going to shine off the get-go. But unfortunately, Sabine had other things to say about it. But I think Leia is still a really good option. I'm interested in the double green because I love Command. I think it's a super underrated card. And I think that using ECL with Metal Ceremony, we saw that a lot in the early iterations of Sabine. Some of them went away from Metal Ceremony at the end. But Metal Ceremony plus Ambush, good strategy. Then there's a cool yellow one you can do with the new Nabat base where you're gonna fish for now there are two of them, and the reason you use that base is because you need like multiple cards for the combo. If you're just looking for one card, I think you don't use it because you want mulliganing, but you could do something cool and like cheat out a Chewie and then they can't remove it as easily. But anyway, number one on our honorable mentions is Leia. Come on, look at that. Awesome art. All right, the second on our honorable mentions is Boba Fett. Let's try that again. Is Boba Fett. When you get new sets, you get new keywords, and when you get new keywords, you got to check out Boba. What I love about Boba in this newest set is not only did we get some new ambush units, and I think that's a great strategy. Ambush plus Boba. Talk about going for Value Town. When you can get more value than the printed cost of the card with these with leaders like Boba, Gar Saxon would be one, right? We'll talk about Mando does that as well. But when you can get that extra value for no upcharge because it is something to build your deck around, I think that Boba is such a cool one to keep looking at. And so Ambush is obviously the good one. We got a lot of good new ambushers. We got the 2-drop vehicle that can just come in there and trade out, or when you draw it off the top, ambushing in for 3 can be really good. And then we got the new he's kind of more of a Kaz card, but the 4/4 ambusher, I mean, coming in and taking out a tech or something like that and just being done with it, I think is a really good option there. But yeah, keywords, booyah. And then, I wanted to talk about pilots. I think you could do a really cool pilot Boba where, yeah, you don't get the bonus when you play a pilot upgrade. Doesn't work that way, but it's going to let you be a bit more flexible. And so you can either play the pilots on the ground, then you get something like the Leia unit to bump them up and keep swinging, and then she's got Restore. That's going to trigger. But also just like, okay, they don't have anything to deal with my upgraded ships. We're banging in there with a Restored Arc. Maybe we're playing Security Complex, putting a shield on it, and we're, attacking. Oh, they have answers to that? Well, then we're just going to play the value game on the ground. And so I think that Boba is a really cool option. And again, when you're looking for showcase art, I mean, come on. All right, before we get into the 3 leaders that I'm really excited about to dust off for an off-meta perspective on JTL, I just wanted to hit you guys up about our Patreon Discord. If you are looking for a place for deck lists or just a place to talk about Star Wars Unlimited, to get in there and get people's ideas and thoughts about competitive Star Wars or your favorite leader, really give it a shot, give it a think. Just being part of our Walkling tier, $5 a month, you get access to what my favorite thing is in the Discord is our deck threads. It's a place where people can come and collaborate. It's a meeting ground for ideas. It's been really cool to see the ones that pop off, and even the small niche leaders. One of my favorites in recent memory was the Fennec boys. Really stuck with their leader, and it ended up in a PQ top 8. So if you're looking for a new place to chat about Star Wars Unlimited, I know it's crazy to think about it for some of the people that have been in this game for so long, but we're starting to see a lot of growth. I think JTL and the new big events coming on is going to see some new growth for Star Wars Unlimited. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, give it a shout. All right, we got to talk Mando. I think Mando, man, I need to go to the showcase art real quick. Because honestly, that's a lot of these leaders are going to be you're fishing for showcases. Mando, I think, is one of the most interesting and fun leaders that FFG has made. I wish that Mando wasn't a 6 deploy 4/7. Just because the way the game works, it's really hard to make that work. I'd much rather have seen a little worse of a stat line coming out on 5, but that's Matty's world and only Matty's living in it. But man, I think that Mando gets a huge bump with JTL, and that is because of pilots. I talked about it a little bit with Boba, but pilots let Mando be more flexible, something that Mando was sorely lacking. In previous iterations of the deck, you had to play like 16 upgrades, and they were only usable, as an upgrade, right? You could either play bounties, or you could play, things like snapshot reflexes. And if your homies all die, it's just kind of sitting there, not doing much. So with pilots now, you have options. If they blow out your guys, you play the pilots to the ground, or you can use something like security complex. Pet card of mine, I think it's a little undervalued, to stick a ship early and then get to swinging. So blue is the one that I'm looking at most because of I think there's some really cool blue pilots, but that's not to say you can't play the other versions. There's great pilots in all colors, really. The first version I made was red, and people saw some cool success with it. So I'd invite you to explore all those options, but I'm gonna dip into blue. And while we look at this list, this is just like a very early first list that I talked about, and not all these decks are gonna have lists because, wow, I'm way too big. It's not really the point of this, is not to give you deck lists, but more to start a discussion. But like, what I really like about the blue version and this list is the ability to be super flexible and use security complex to kind of insulate yourself a little bit in the early game. When you look at the pilots, like, a lot of them aren't like the most insane bodies on them, but they're definitely serviceable, especially if you're planning to upgrade them. Like, I don't think a lot of people necessarily want to play a 2/5 in their deck. That's not tech. But the good thing about Mando is you are going to be upgrading. You are going to be putting a blaster on it, or you are going to be putting snapshot reflexes. So it makes Trace just that much more viable in a deck like this. And then again, you have the 1 pilot cost. So that's the cool thing, is while you may, when doing your deck building, you may find like, oh, my curve is a little wonky, but you really need to look at those the upgrade costs. And so the cheaper ones are obviously going to be a lot nicer. And I love a card like Boshek in this list, where once you pilot it, you can get a little bit of the recursion. Again, this is just like a list for the purposes of discussion. This is, you can use this as a jumping off point. I think you're going to find that you can make some upgrades here. Pun intended, right, Mando? But what I want to highlight is, like, for instance, like L3, right? You can play L3, 3/3 for 3, not amazing. But you stick it, maybe you put a shield on it, you throw a blaster on it, and you get attack, and they have to remove that, and then, it flips itself into the skies. And while I don't have, and you could certainly play Razor Crest, and I would actually, adding onto this list, I think this is from before the yellow Razor Crest was added. I would definitely put that in your list. And you know what? If you see another card that you are like, Matty, why is that not in there? Hit me in the comments. I love reading about your ideas. One of the things that I really push for is a collaborative process. That's why I love our deck threads in the Discord so much. And so, like, using this to hit people who are just interested in what we have to say on YouTube, which is completely, a viable way to do it. I love the YouTube homies. I love the comments, barring a few of the wonky ones, but that's part of the game. But yeah, Boshek gives you some of the recursion that you may be missing if you don't want to play the Restore Razor Crest. Maybe that's like a sideboard option where you need some health. But I think the yellow one is an include. And I love, Conquer Dawn Intercept is not like the biggest booty. Like, I love putting pilots on Sentinels. One of my favorite ones is Bright Hope, just because the 6 booty is real nice for all you booty enjoyers like me. But just putting it on a sentinel and you get to hit, and then they have to come back into a pretty sizable body is nice. So yeah, there's some cool options. I think pilot is the key and could very well unlock Mando. I was hoping it was bounties, and I tried some green stuff with the ramp bounty and bounty hunter's quarry last season, and it just fell short. So I'm hoping the viability and flexibility of pilots could be something that unlocks Mando. So yeah, Mando, go win a showcase, y'all. All right, the next leader we got to talk about is Hera. We got a bunch of new Spectres in JTL, including, I've only opened one pack of JTL and cracked a legendary ghost. So Hera stock's on the rise. But yeah, Hera, what is her showcase art? Let me be honest with you. I don't think I know it. Oh, that's not showcase. Come on. Okay, yeah, look at that. That's a mean mug. Love to see it. Okay, so not the most expensive showcase that you can go out and win, but it is definitely a very cool one. And I think Hera's a bit of a fan favorite. I know that people are always in at our locals, like, and in the Discord looking to make Hera decks work. And I think this is finally y'all's time to shine. Just looking at the sheer number of Spectres that we have going on now, and then one you can't see is Sabine's masterpiece. I think this is your shot. And so another thing is too is like Spark Rebellion is one of the best cards I think in the game, and it's only going to get better with really needing to attack Jango's hand and making sure that you can kind of take out some of those power plays out of their repertoire. So you get access to a very diverse color palette. Granted, it's limited to Spectres, but then you get your Carabas, which I'm not sure I'm playing, but definitely playing the Spark. So that's nice. And then when you're playing so many different colors, Sabine unit kind of can pop off. And so I'm presumably going to be running ECL. I'm kind of an ECL shill, at least at the beginning of the meta. I like to start there and kind of move my way out if I find that I'm not using it. But there's just so many good units that can get ambushed to the point where I'm also going to probably play too timely in a deck like this. And try to unlock Zeb and Sabine to kind of do their thing. And then also like another unit that doesn't ambush too poorly is Sabine's masterpiece. So I think that's nice. And then jumping on the piggyback of some of the Leia discussion, like all these Spectres are also Rebels. So you can play Rebel Assault, which I think is really insane. I actually did like a Rebel Assault Hera plus Ghost, pumping up the Ghost and then giving it Sentinel, and like it was just kind of disgusting. So boom, we got way more cards. We got more Rebel cards, so now you can use the Rebel synergy in green, and you can use the Spectre synergy. So we got a lot of bump ups. Another card that I want to talk about, if you're not feeling the ECL, is kind of one that went by the wayside, and that's Lake Country. Lake Country is really interesting because you don't really necessarily need to be in double green if that's not your playstyle, or if you want to try something different. And then you're just getting 34 hit points, or base life total, whatever it's called. And so it's going to give you a little more time to get to 6 and get your Hera out. And it also works really well with Sabine unit because you're not going to presumably play any Blanky boys. So now your Sabine, if I can find it, is always live. And that's really cool. So it gives you some options. I think it's a good tribal deck. If you're looking to get somebody in the game, I'm not sponsored, but I live in Worcester, Massachusetts, so Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, baby. If you're looking to get someone in the game, that's like a cool tribal to get them into. And if you are looking to, like, I want to stress this, like, if you like competing, but you like to beat your own drum, like, this is a different way to play a tournament. And I think it's so cool. It's like, I just want to be the person that wins the showcase. I think that's a cool goal. So if you want to go and win a Hera showcase instead of spending the $50 to buy it, because winning a showcase is like a story, you know, like you can pull it and that's luck, but like earning a showcase is kind of cool. And so when we're looking back at Star Wars Unlimited years from now, that can be a mantelpiece card. So I think that's a really cool thing they added, just to echo that sentiment. And I think you could do it with Hera and have a good story for all your friends. All right. And now for the reason a lot of you are probably here, right? Luke. Let's win a Luke showcase. This is obviously going to be the most competitive of the 3 leaders in terms of trying to win a showcase, because I think a lot of people are going to try to do it. I think it's a cool goal to have. And I think Luke, off the top of my head, in terms of just thinking about the meta game and thinking about Django, Luke could be the best chance at a competitive run, and that's due to the shields. You can't get tapped down if you don't take damage, and shields will go a long way in doing that. You just have to be mindful that you're playing a 6 deploy hero leader that isn't Han Solo, who can't cheat himself out in the same way. So when you're building this deck, just keep like Han Yellow in mind, and you might need to have a serious sideboard against that, whether it's you're in green, you're playing scanning officers out of the sideboard, or just jamming in takedowns and stuff like that for Tech DJ. But I can't show you the art because we do not know what it is going to look like, but I bet it's going to be absolute fire. As long as it is not this art. No offense, guys. But yeah, looking at Luke, shields are kind of cracked, and when people are trying to use 1 damage to tap you down, and Luke gets to do that. And so just like if you're going for like the 1 cost play, Yellow has some good options because of your spacers. You have multiple turn 1 spacers that you can go ahead and shield. And then we talked about blue pilots. You could be trying to do some sort of blue-yellow spacer shield deck and winning the race that way. Playing some tempo cards like Bamboozle stocks way up with this set. And also, just your waylays. I think that card's going to be very good because, while you can't bounce the leader unit, you're going to want to save your boozles. And I really like C-3PO when you're playing Bamboozle, just to make sure you get the cards. You could also play like Queel, but then you're like super yellow deck, and I don't know if Luke wants to do that. So that's just one way to look at it. I think that my favorite version is going to be green. We're going to click, believe it or not, we're not going to click Echo Base. We're going to click Command Center. We are storming. I mean, they didn't really storm the Death Star. They kind of just like fell ass backwards and then, escaped. We're playing Escape the Death Star, I guess. I truly think that one of your strongest starts with Luke is that Dispatcher. Being able to get ahead on curve or play to your curve and then add a shield, I think it's a really strong way to do it. And then you have cards like Village Protectors that you could put 2 shields on. I think that's really potent. And what's nice about the blue-green combo is that you get multiple Space Sentinels. So if you're really trying to jam up the space against, say, a Django, you get the Mandalorian Sentinel and you get Bright Hope. Which is really cool. Another card that I'm really high on, and it was one of our spoiler cards, is Salvage. I think Salvage could be insane in Luke. Not only getting back those Sentinels to keeping pesky and like walling yourself off so you can get out to your Lukes, get out to your home ones, get out to your redemptions. But how about just like recurring a redemption or recurring a home one? It's something I've been trying to do. Spoilers, a little peek behind the veil. I've been trying to do in Han, because Han Yellow, he can just ditch one of those ships because you're ramping up, and then salvaging a home one or something like that is really cool. You don't have to just like keep it in your hand. It also insulates you a little bit against discard, so you could go like a piloty Luke, get some stuff back, and then our other spoiler card was the Luke himself, and so also kind of works well there if you have some pilots. Although I wouldn't go full pilot, never go full pilot, but it's just like we're in an attrition war, and so if we put a full pilot, I mean, if we if we put a pilot on pilot Luke on a Sentinel and then it dies, guess what? We get to deploy to the ground. You still get the Rebel synergies, you still get stuff like that. You still get to play one of the best legends in the game because there hasn't been legends like Set One Legends in quite some time. Sorry, the Ghost, which is actually a pretty cool card, but. Yeah, so I'm personally a little more into this green, and there's such cool options. Like, are you going to be playing ECL and like Rose Tico, and trying to go that route, or are you going to play this like more controlled variant and just trying to get out there? So you have options, and yeah, I think the shields are going to be really important. There's another, man, set one before all the cards are spoiled. I would play T-Town, but I'm just saying, like, I did like to live in a world where you were Tarkin Town, and there are some good one-cost homies to put out there. You can play, oh, that's not a hero tag. Man, Benthic, why aren't you hero? I think like card filtering is still really important when you draw 2 cards a turn, just making sure that the hits keep coming. And then like putting like shielding and then putting a Jedi lightsaber on Barriss can help you race and like keep your Force throws active. Force throw is one of my favorite cards in the game, so I'm always looking at red blue, but I think the edge still goes to Rey because you're not inhibited by the hero symbol, and sometimes that that 1 hit point, actually the 1/1 can just like help you race or just insulate somebody's Tookus a little bit to not die. But yeah, so I did want to talk about, I know this video is getting a little long, but I actually think mono blue Luke could be insane. Whether you're just gonna where would Luke hang out? Cloud City Luke, you feeling some end of the Empire Strikes Back? Man, don't quiz me. You feeling that vibe? You want to go mono blue? I think Equalize is really potent card. Paying 4 for Vigilance. I mean, a lot of us paid 6, and we're very happy to do so, and some people are still doing it. And then like Hondo could be cracked, right? Like, let's not forget that people play a lot of people play shields, people play blasters, and so when you can take that and ship it over on your side is really potent. And a 3/5 booty is a good number. It's a little more protected. It obviously doesn't die to 1 ping Tarkin Town, so I think Hondo could be really cool. So look, like Luke is viable in a lot of colors. So why don't you hit me in the comments with your favorite Luke? And I think that because you have shields, and you can even play shield base to really like hammer it home, but like play some shields, play some upgrades, get them back with Razor Crest. Like, I think that we're in the land of like make them have it, and so like throw an upgrade, and if they get waylaid or whatever, you're just gonna you can just get it back. Play some Hondo. Hondo's cool. All right, y'all. So that was my 3. It was really 5. I mean, I talked at pretty good length about Leia and Boba. My 3 hero leaders that I think that you could dust off and get a little off meta, get a little weird, get a little silver bullety in JTL. You know, look, we know that Django's clearly going to be number 1. I mean, it got tools. It was already very good. And Han isn't going anywhere because they didn't touch DJ. But this is just like, we're all playing this game for different reasons. I love that we can go out and win a showcase. So I think there are reasons to go and look back at some of these older leaders and dust them off and get them on the felt, as it were. But also stay tuned. I'm going to do one of these on villains as well. I'm really excited to try the set 1 Vader and see what that showcase art looks like. So stay tuned for that. As always, would love to hear your take on some of these things. And yeah, good luck at your pre-releases or just like your pack openings. Rip some cool stuff with Carbonite, baby.